Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I am your Coconut Gamer, and I sincerely hope that you guys are all doing amazing. And if you're not, I really hope that amazing is right around the corner for you. At the time of recording, the second open beta for Monster Hunter Wilds has just finished. It's packed away, it's gone, and we won't get another chance to play Monster Hunter Wilds until the full release at the end of the month. So with that out of the way, I kind of wanted to take a few minutes to share my thoughts on the Gunlance and what we got to play and what we had access to in the beta. I am a Gunlance main. I played it through the whole of the 5th gen. I'm a 5th fleeter, so that's the bulk of my experience with the weapon. And all of that said, I am a very mid player. I'm not a speedrunner. I'm not a Gunlance savant or master like all the cow slayers of the world. I think I'm just an average at best player. I often overcommit to long combos. I don't always choose the best option in a given scenario. And I often build for comfort over the meta DPS setups that you'll see. And at the end of the day, I just like things that go boom. Explosions and knockbacks and more explosions. So that is the basic perspective I have when I'm playing the boomstick. And so don't expect necessarily super high level breakdowns on the weapon. This is just my experience with it in the beta and what I thought of it as an average player. Now, in regards to the glow up that they gave my baby, it is absolutely insane and I love it. Absolutely love it. I am so stoked on the changes that they gave the Gunlance. The weapon feels super nice. It feels fluid with lots and lots of options and decision making and deviation through its combos. Like, I really get the sense that you gotta weigh out how long of an attack string you're gonna do, and if you want to cut it short or change the combo route part way through. There's lots of like versatility to sort of allow for that, and I thought it was just so good. It was super engaging to play. The pinnacle combo of the double Wormstake full blast into the double Wyvern fire is so amazingly satisfying. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. I definitely tried to do it too many times in spaces where it did not fit. But I couldn't get enough. I love that combo. It outputs so much damage and feels so amazing with so many explosions that when you pull it off, so good. So good. But it's not just that though. Like, with the added mobility, with the shelling movement, and the wide sweep steps, makes the weapon feel really mobile. It allows you to sort of like stay on your toes, adjust mid-combo, make little adjustments here and there just to be out of the way. It makes it feel like you're not stuck in the mud and super grounded, like you can feel in some of the other iterations of Gunlance. That said, I am a little sad that the back hop movement tech that we used to use in Iceborne and Sunbreak seems to effectively be gone. At least like in a consistent way, right? I know that it's still kind of possible to do and to cover ground with, but either the button timing is super tight or the input buffer isn't allowing for it to happen very easily. Like, I was able to do it in the training room on a rare occasion, but not consistently enough to want to try it in the middle of a hunt. The only consistent way I was able to use that back hop tech for movement was using focus mode. But if I was using focus mode, then I'd have the camera facing away from the monster in order to back hops towards it. Or I could do a poke first and then do the back hops. But if you're taking the time to do a poke and then do the back hops, it kind of takes more time to do anyway, which defeats the purpose of doing the back hop movement. And you're just better off to do the shelling steps to get closer. I kind of feel like maybe that's what the devs wanted to move away from, to get away from using the back hop as a gap closer to get closer to the monster, instead choosing to go the way of the shelling movement. It's a sad loss for sure. It's something that Gunlancers, as far as I can tell, have been using for a very, very long time. But there are other options out there. And so it's not the end of the world. The mobility still's really, really good, really, really fluid, and you have options. So it'll be fine. It's the Gunlance is in a good place. That said, I won't say that it's the most mobile version of the weapon that we've ever had, because obviously that title is going to go to Rise and Sunbreak, which had Blast Dash and Reverse Blast and other wire bug skills that covered a lot of forward ground if you needed to close the gap. Like, there was just a lot of movement tech and ways to speed up your pace with the Gunlance in that game. But that said, the mobility is in a good spot. At least against the monsters that we fought in the beta, you could keep up, you could create space, you could close space. I think that the Gunlance is in a good space mobility-wise, especially for the style of game that Monster Hunter Wilds is going for, which is more grounded, more earthy almost, especially compared to Sunbreak. Now, the Power Clash mechanic is also absolutely amazing. It feels so good to do. It's cinematic. It's satisfying with the monster like pushing up against your shield and you're holding your ground. You do the little reload animation thing and then stick your Gunlance either in its mouth or into its shoulder and then just blow the whole load. Oh, so good. I loved it. I love that I'm rewarded for using the shield skillfully, timing it right for the perfect guards to initiate the Power Clash, and not just like always hiding behind it all the time, or what happened with me in other games is mostly completely ignoring it because it just didn't feel rewarding to use the shield in as much in Iceborne and Sunbreak. The skillful use of it is a great implementation in Monster Hunter Wilds, and I'm definitely here for it. Because it's not just a power clash, right? Obviously that'll trigger eventually if you do enough perfect guards, but being able to get the follow-up actions after the power guards or after the perfect guards is super satisfying. I like that it basically negates knockback, so you're still in range to counterattack or reload or punish whatever the move that the monster did by perfect guarding. It rewards you for using it right, which I think was sorely needed. In other games, particularly Iceborne, I would more often try to iframe the attack than to block it, because at least the dodge had benefits, like being able to attack right away and put you in a good position to be at the right spacing, whereas like a lot of attacks often just knocked you back too far away if you just sat there and blocked, right? But with a perfect guard in Wilds, that seems to be less of an issue. Obviously, we haven't seen all the attacks. I'm sure there are going to be attacks that are going to require armor skills to effectively not be moved by, but just the way it is right now and what we saw, I think it's really great. It's in a good spot and rewards skillful play, so I am on board with that. Now, that said, I have a couple issues with the weapon, and the one glaring one I think for me is that I don't know necessarily if the other playstyles and shelling types will have much of a place in the meta. I tried out the charge shelling style that the long Gunlance usually does, and it didn't feel super great to me. You charge it up, like essentially charged up all the shells and loaded them all into the Gunlance, and they would all fire at the same time, which was kind of cool. I appreciated that, but I don't know, I just didn't find it super fun to play. It wasn't as engaging to play that I found. It felt a little one-dimensional and a little slow. Obviously there are no armor skills built into it to make that feel any better. I hope that might be just because we've only had the beta and maybe it'll feel better in the full game. I really do hope that that's just my own skill issue, and that hopefully there's still room for that playstyle. I felt similarly as well about the wide shelling style of that poke shell when it comes to the wide shell gun lances. It just felt kind of inferior to the normal shelling full bursting style. I used to use the wide shelling style in Iceborne because it was considerably more mobile and had a lot less animation commitment, but with the shelling movement in Wilds, it feels like it makes it more sense to use a normal gun lance to have whatever 5-6 shells and be able to move around that way versus the wide shelling mobility that you might be able to have but only have 2 or 3 shells in your lance. So it just felt like the devs have been leaning into more of a normal shelling gun lance versus the other two. Obviously we'll learn more about it when we get our hands on the full game, but I don't know, just right now it just didn't feel great to play the other playstyles of the gun lance, and they just felt inferior to normal bursting, and that would be sad if it was completely obsolete. Like, I feel like in Iceborne particularly, like, it felt like those other shelling styles had favorable matchups where they excelled in, and normal had its place too, right? And so, like, you got to pick and choose a different playstyle, and you weren't punished for it as being like completely inferior of a style. So we'll see how it all comes together on full release, but in the beta I just didn't really feel connected to the other playstyles that are typically with the gun lance. That said, I was also a little bit underwhelmed by the focus attack. That drill auger move, don't get me wrong, it looks hella cool. Don't get it twisted. I think it's got that like that flashy cinematic factor, and I'm not gonna lie, I found it super funny. I'm childish this way maybe, but like just ramming that auger up a monster's butt and getting the wound there. I just thought it was always a funny time. So it's good in that sense. But having played around with it a little bit, I'm not sure I found a situation necessarily where it's the best option. The gun lance doesn't really benefit from the wound system and the focus strike system the same way that other weapons do. I know that like weapons like the insect glaive can really benefit from the wounding system because it gives the glaive all the buffs that it needs to be at like max efficacy. Or I know the switch axe gets like the charge part of the axe when you use the focus attack on the wound, and it's like super like crucial for a weapon like the charge blade that gets access to like its highest form essentially with the power axe mode, using the focus attack. So Gunlance just doesn't really seem to need it as much. So when I was playing multiplayer hunts over the beta, I often just left wounds alone, and unless I could see that like other hunters weren't touching it, I just left wounds alone. I would leave it for the other players because they would get more of a benefit from it. So I'm just not sure what place the drill auger move has as far as being part of the kit. I'm not necessarily saying that it needs a buff or anything like that, because realistically the Gunlance is eating so good right now. I'm just not sure what the purpose of the move is other than to look cool. And who knows, maybe that's enough, right? Maybe looking cool is all it needs and that's where it can end, and that's okay, just to have a cool move to do when you're hunting solo and you think it would just be a fun thing to do, and just leave it at that. I think it would have been kind of cool if there were even just like specific situations where the move becomes the optimal choice, where you are rewarded for using that move in the toolkit at the right time, even if it's a super niche situation. And maybe I just didn't find that super niche situation, but I think it would be really cool to have that available, as opposed to just like a little bit of extra damage. It didn't even seem to do like the most damage in any circumstances, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'll use it in solo hunts now and then, but if I'm in a tight fight against harder monsters, I'm not sure that I'll be leaning on that drill auger, because I can burst wounds just as easily with the worm stake or wyvern's fire. So I don't know. I was just a little disappointed in the application of the focus strike, but it was fine. It was fine. And the last issue that I have is probably not directly a Gunlance problem. I don't know. I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about it. It might be a system-wide issue, or it's honestly, it could be just part of the issues of it being a beta that we have access to. But it was more a matter of the input buffers and the timings. I don't know if it's just a matter of maybe getting used to this particular game's timing windows and the rhythms for the weapon, but it felt like there were a lot of times where I could have sworn I thought I pressed buttons at the right time to continue combos or hop out of the way of things, but it felt like my inputs were getting eaten up or wouldn't come out. It came to the point where I just started double or triple pressing, sometimes mashing buttons until my character would move or do the thing that I wanted before stopping and moving on to the next input. And even then, of course, because I'm mashing, like I would get occasionally get the input again, a double move or a double back hop or a double poke or whatever it was that I was mashing on, because the inputs didn't feel super clean. So I wanted to try and get them to come out, so I pressed them more, which maybe that's on me, but it just didn't feel super satisfying as far as like the timings and the way the inputs were being read. Yeah, it didn't feel super great. Yeah, it felt, I don't know if I'm really articulating it super well, but I've played a lot of fighting games in the past, and action combat games, and even in comparison to the last couple Monster Hunter games, the inputs felt really loose, if that makes sense. And that could be a me problem. I'm okay admitting that maybe that's just me, and I'm not used to the timing for this game. But I did just want to sort of mention that, as it wasn't as satisfying as I would have liked it to have been. And I haven't heard really anyone mention that aspect of it. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. But that's really about it. Like, those are my thoughts on the Gunlance that we've had access to in the beta. It's super fun. It's spectacular. There are so many cinematic moments and hype situations that, like, I would just audibly, like, scream and cheer while I was playing, because of how the Gunlance played and how rewarded it felt to read the situation right and get those knockdowns or last second kills. My first kill of Arkveld, I had 22 seconds left on the clock, and it was a final last ditch effort that I was following up the double Wormstake full blast combo with the 2 Wyvern fires, and I was like, if this Wyvern fire doesn't kill it, I'm done. I'm out of time. There's no more time for me to do any more damage, and that was the kill that got it, or that was the attack that got it. So, like, the Gunlance, in my opinion, is in a great place, and I love the changes. It's super engaging to play. I am so looking forward to full release, so I can play away with a couple of those other playstyles, see how those feel. Obviously, I have a couple concerns and random thoughts, but other than that, the Gunlance is in a great spot. Gunlancers are just eating good right now. And there's really nothing more to say. It's going to be a long couple of weeks till we get full access, but hopefully that time flies by. In the meantime, I'll be taking my Gunlance to Iceborne to try and finish off Elatrion and Fatalis. I've never cleared them with the Gunlance before, and I'll probably poke my head in Rise and Sunbreak as well, just to sort of finally do a final wrap up with those games before moving on to Wilds. So all of that said, I hope to see you guys in a couple weeks doing hunts in Wilds. I hope you guys are excited as excited as I am, and may your monster parts drop and you never run out of carts. Bye.